Trade tariffs are dominating the news today, and many businesses come to us with questions about how tariffs impact business-to-business invoices. My name is Ruud van Hilten. I am the Director of the Invoicing Compliance at Tungsten Automation. And in this brief recording, I will provide more clarity about how tariffs can make their way into tax invoices, what this means for businesses, and how Tungsten Automation's InvoiceAgility provides businesses with the capabilities they need to avoid increased cost and risk. First off, trade tariffs are not really a new phenomenon. They actually date back to approximately 2000 BC. They have been lower profile for a while, mainly because of trade agreements between countries, but were recently introduced, as we are all well aware. And today, as so many businesses trade across borders, tariffs shape global supply chains and they influence decisions about, for instance, sourcing of materials, but also international distribution decisions and sales, where do you sell? It needs to be clear that trade tariffs belong mostly to the world of customs and logistics, but they can and they do tentacle into the world of AR and AP, and that's what we're here to explain today, how the world of customs actually sometimes moves into the world of, let's say, tax invoices. The customs environment requires very precise documentation about, for instance, the country of origin of goods and materials, because that determines whether trade tariffs need to be paid and how much. And this needs to be documented in a so-called commercial invoice. And a commercial invoice is a customs document that also details the specific shipping terms that have been agreed between the two trading parties in the different countries. So when a company decides to trade with another company abroad, they will typically agree on terms for shipping and logistics, and these terms are known as incoterms. And these incoterms determine who pays the freight charges, for instance, who pays the insurances, but also who pays the tariffs. There are about 10 of these incoterms that we know about, and one of these incoterms is called DDP, Delivery Duty Paid. And it is exactly this particular incoterm that has an immediate impact on the B2B tax invoice. Let me explain that. In case of DDP, so Delivery Duty Paid, the supplier pays all charges, including the trade tariff and the insurance and everything else that was agreed, so that when the buyer receives the goods, they are fully cleared in what's called the port of entry. So before the goods leave the port of departure, the supplier will have settled all these particular charges, including the trade tariff. But that only happens in DDP. And again, by the time they reach the port of entry, so they come into the country of the buyer, these tariffs will have already been paid. But of course, the supplier will of course recharge the tariffs. And they do that in the tax invoice or the business-to-business invoice, which is typically an instruction to pay. The tax invoice will now reflect the total agreed price, and this agreed price will include the tariff. This agreed price is known as the landed cost. Now, in many cases, the supplier will actually choose to specify the tariff in the tax invoice, and they can do this, for instance, as a separate cost, but they could also do that using a special tax line or a comment in a specific line item. And a solution, a tax invoice solution, needs to cater for those particular requirements. And this is exactly where invoice automation comes in as a critical capability to avoid business disruption and cost from increased admin burden, but also risks that are associated with data flaws or miscalculation and inaccuracies. And then most importantly, a company that relies heavily on manual processes will run into obstacles in accessing more cost-effective supply chains in other countries, and will find that they can't move sourcing or distribution into another country, and at least not without bringing in another army of people, mainly due to local requirements and difficult legislation. It is therefore imperative that businesses have an effective system that manages the diverse and complex legislations in various countries so that they are able to deal with rapid change. And in other words, they require invoice agility. Invoice agility provides intelligent invoice management capabilities that allows buyers and suppliers to focus on their core business while operating in a challenging and intricate cross-border trade situation.